I am building my first ever piece of furniture, and it is a Murphy bed from a hardware kit by Create-A-Bed. This is a DIY project that I'm really excited to take on, and it was easier than I thought. So stick around and I'll show you how you can do it too.
To do that, I have bought a kit, and this is going to be a full size or a double bed kit oriented vertically. Depending on the space and how you want to use it, you can get them kind of vertically or horizontally, and you can get them, I believe, in double or queen sizes. I'll put a link to this one down in the description, of course. So I'd already sort of folded out of the box, and this is all that's inside. So this is not a kit in the sense that it is full of like all the parts you need to make a bed. It's only a hardware kit. So there's these two lower plates. I guess this is a bit of an unboxing. Two upper plates, some screws, some hardware, see kind of strapping, more hardware. I believe these are the legs. So these will sort of fold down and hold the bed when it open. And these look like they are some kind of the hinge mechanism, probably. Oh, loud. And then, these hydraulic pistons. And that's it. It comes with pretty detailed plans. So a toll-free number. There are two instruction books. So the green is how to use plywood to make the actual bed. The measurements and everything. And the purple book is assembly and structure. Yeah, good. So it's basically got like a whole cut list. More or less what you need. Oh, and it's got templates. That's nice. So it's got some design options. I don't know if you can see this, but it makes some suggestions to sort of make it look like a bit of an armoire or something. You know, you could do something really simple. Yeah, basically from simple to increasingly complicated, including, crown molding and a base. It requires 4 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. So, 4x8. And 2 sheets of 1/4 inch plywood. So 6 sheets total. 12 pieces by the look of it. And then the assembly instructions. So I guess let's get to work on cutting this. All right, so it's time to rip down the boards. Comes with a nice little cut list and some suggestions about how to lay it out on the wood. To make the cut, I'm using the Craig's ripcut tool, which I'll put a link to down in the description. I'm going to start by taking a 1/4 inch off of side, just because, I don't trust the edge of the plywood as it was in the store. So, yeah, gonna take a 1/4 inch off the side, and then we'll start making our real cuts. All right, so the cabinet vertical. 15 7/8. Okay, so the face panel is 29 inches. So I need to take 2 1/4 off which side. So for some of the thinner pieces, table saw, it's just easier. So I'm doing my best to squeeze as many pieces out of the scrap as I can. So yeah, some of these pieces are as narrow as 2 3/4. And it's obviously a good idea to label all the first. Also, this is going to be a double bed or full-size bed, right? So most of the lengths are around 75 inches. I think that's the size of the double mattress. I did the rip cuts with the Craig jig, and then the front faces were probably too wide to do on here, but all the other pieces I'm gonna cut on the mitre. And as ever, I'm assuming y'all have seen people work a saw. So I'm probably not going to film every single one of these cuts. Okay, so here are the 4 pieces that make up the main bed frame. So it's the front rail, the header rail. Still need to sand these. It's a good idea to label this stuff as you're cutting it. And then these are the side rail. Now what's cool about this kit, which I hope you can see here, is that it comes with 4 pages of templates so that you can know exactly where to drill holes. So for example, 1-inch Borsman bit hole here. This is just this is the back side. It'll be inside the cabinet. This is the front side of the other one. You need a 5-inch hole here, but it's not going to go all the way through. And then some 1/4-inch holes. 1/4-inch holes, 1, 2, 3. And then I got some pilot holes for screws. So machine screws are going to go through these holes, and then wood screws are going to go here. And this is going to stick up and over and connect to the plate on the other side. So before I sand these, I'm going to drill all these holes. Yeah, so this says this 5/8-inch hole is only supposed to go a 1/2 inch deep. All right, and now I'm going to do these 1/4-inch holes. Because I've turned these around, so you're looking at the front of both of them now. And the other part that the template has, in addition to showing you where to drill holes, is we need to round off the 2 rails on the front so that it can fold up into the cabinet. So for that, just going to use jigsaw. Okay, with all the cuts done and the holes drilled in the sideboards of the bed, we can start to sand. So there's kind of 2 main structures in this build. The one is the stuff that'll hold your bed. The other is the cabinet that'll stay against the wall when the bed is folded down. So what you're looking at here is the 4 pieces that'll make the rectangle that goes around the mattress. So these are the sides with the holes that we drilled on either end, and the rounded end with the jigsaw. This is the head that'll hold the mattress when it's folded up, and then this is the foot that'll go on the end of this clad part here. Over here are the 2 panels that are going to make up the basically fake door on the front of all of this. Okay, and here are the other pieces that are going to make up the cabinet that stays upright when the bed is folded out. So these are going to be the sides. This is going to be kind of a middle brace in between these against the wall. And this is going to be what they call the header. So like these pieces will go here. And they want, I need to go to the hardware store and get 1 more solid piece to make the rails that will go between here. And also the piece that will go between the middle feet. I'll show you those when I get to them. Okay, so I've marked the sides that don't need finishing with X's from a Sharpie. And like I said, I'm going to come at the cut edges with 1/21st, go all the way around, and I'm going to come back and do all the surfaces with 2.
All right, so my mic died in some of these clips and I didn't notice. So here I am from the future working from memory. We're working on the very top of the cabinet that the bed will fold into. And what I'm holding here for the sides of this are sort of like rails. For some reason, the plans are very clear that these side rails have to be solid material. So I had to go out and buy, I think, probably a 3-inch board, but obviously read the instructions. And then the front and back are going to go on top. So this is going to be, it's going to have like a recess in it, right? So it's facing up right now. And so I think the only reason that these need to be solid material is because you're going to screw down through them. And I guess that wouldn't be as strong in plywood. So I'm going to get these side rails attached, and then we're going to go inside and attach the front and back of the top of the cabinet here.
Okay, and for these front rails, they actually want them attached so that they're flush with these rails here, but that they're actually overhanging on the bottom here.
All right. So I found the easiest way to attach the front and the back of the top of the cabinet here where it wants the overhang that I'm pointing at right there. It was to just put this on a flat surface. So obviously if you have a big enough workbench, don't kneel on the floor. But I just used the floor as a straight edge and some clamps to hold it in place. And then I could shoot in the screws. One thing that I didn't realize till later is that the front of this, it really suggests that you use finish nails so that it looks good. And I didn't read that until I'd already shot screws into it. So that's one thing you can do to just avoid having to fill those screw holes later, like I did. Use finish nails on the front and screws on the back.
So the next thing we need to do is make these sort of L-shaped interior mattress supports. It tells you that you can either use 1.5-inch screws or 1.5-inch finish nails. That's a little bit nice. You don't have to go out and buy a nailer. So after making that one off camera, I'm going to make another one. So yeah, bead of glue. These are never going to be seen. They're going to be entirely inside this sort of area that the mattress holds, or that holds the mattress. So, yeah, and you want them all kind of flush. So what I'm going to do is the first nail is going to go in here where it's already flush. Get my finger out of the way. Okay, so with the 5 horizontal kind of struts, these L-shaped things, we need to now attach the lengthwise ones. So you want to have the 2 end ones kind of with the L coming down like this on this side and the L coming down like this on the other side. Ultimately, we want these attached with 2.5-inch nails to make sure that this is nice and strong, presumably. But since I'm working on the sawhorse here and not on a workbench, I'm going to pin these in place first since I've got the nailer here to start. Just as a helping hand. All right, and then the other ones are going to go here. So pictures show these all facing the same way. So I'm going to do that. So while these ones are going to be such that they come up and out on the side, these ones are all going to face the same way. And we need to make sure that we space these correctly. So I'm not going to give you the spacings just because it's all going to depend on what size mattress you're building. But do make sure that you follow, the instructions for your particular kit, right? So I know this is not my design, and there are multiple sizes and shapes that you might be building. So this is just a general guide. All right, and then I'm gonna countersink with 2-inch nails. One's gonna go into each of the L-shaped boards, more or less in the center. All right, and then 2-inch nails. Okay, a frame is made. Here are the pieces of oak that are going to go around the outside, and it's time to actually start attaching trim. The first thing I'm going to do is this is going to be the leg support. This is made of solid wood. All right, so here are the two long sides. Remember, we drilled these 5/8 inch holes that did not go all the way through. The legs here have this little tabby thing, and they're going to fit in like this, and they can come up and down as you fold the bed. As far as I can tell, you could put these on either side. So we can make sure that these are parallel with it. All right, so we've got a parallel. And what they want you to do is, I'll show you in a second. All right, so I marked the bottom side, and we're going to put 1/4 inch holes through, straight through to the other side. Okay, so for the bottom parts of these brackets, they've got these little kind of tubes, threaded tubes, and machine screws. So the way these are going to be attached is with a combination of these machine screws and these small wood screws on the tops. Okay, so the next thing to do is attach what are called the lower plates to the outside of the side rails. The outside, so the legs we just attached are on the inside. So flip the boards over and that'll be the outside. The other thing it says to do is cut yourself a 5/16 inch thick piece of wood, which I did on my table saw and I sort of verified it. And you want this ball space 5/16 of an inch away from the wood, and presumably that's because that's the appearance you need for these hydraulic hinge piston things. The problem is that from my template, the holes don't really line up at all. So that's a bit annoying. So what I'm going to use is my speed square here to just kind of draw the vertical line of where these holes belong. I'll do that on both sides. So right, one more thing, I'm gonna mark out what's square here too. The good news is that this plate is going to cover up the fact that these first holes I drilled are in completely the wrong place. The bad news is that I think I'm probably going to lose a little bit of structural integrity on a pretty structurally important part of this bill. So keep that in mind when you're using your templates that they give you, that where you had a piece of paper in the beginning may not be where things end up in the end. Okay, so I have clamped my spacer on. Notice that this ball joint has this funny hexagon that is how it's bolted on. So to get this to kind of be flush with the wood, you need to clamp this low enough that this hexagon has clearance, which I finally have achieved. So what I'm going to do now is line this up with the vertical marks that we made and draw some new marks for holes. So we need to do 1/4 inch hole. Okay. All right, so now we can flip these over, and we've got these pivot hinges. They came in my thing nested together. They're going to go on the inside through these 1-inch holes that we cut the whole way through. All right, good. So that's the pivot. Notice that I used the silver number 12 screws, and that like the legs, these are on the inside, whereas these pivot ball things are on the outside. Okay, so with the side rails put together, I've got the internal frame back up on the sawhorse. It's time to attach the foot and head rail. So if you marked one of these to be finished or not finished, make sure you've got the part you don't plan on finishing pointed down. And we want these to be flush with, the whole frame. So I think once again, I'm going to use my handy nail gun as a third hand. I'm just going to pin the corners before I attach this with screws. The same with the headboard. All right, and it wants 1/8 inch pilot holes and 5 1 1/4 inch screws. So I'm going to make those pilot holes. And then we'll do our 1 1/4 inch screws. As I go along, I'm going to make sure that it's roughly flush with the bottom here. Next, we can attach the side rails. I'm going to use pins as an extra set of hands. The nice thing is that this side leg kind of will hug a core you. So I recommend doing the head side first because there's nothing over here to hook up. Get it all flush with the corner. Pop in a pin. This nice and flush. Pop in a pin. Do the other side. All right, so I went to add the screws. We're going to put 2 in between each one of these risers. But, this pine is not the highest quality wood. Not 100% straight. So just to make sure that this is finished well, I'm going to pin all the sort of studs to the frame so that there's no chance that this ends up at a square or whatever wash. All right. So I think the camera battery died while I was putting in the screws. You can imagine putting 2 1 1/4 inch screws along the bed frame to connect the rails. The next thing, I'm going to put 2-inch screws into the frame, and these are going to be countersunk. All right, so the frame is together, and these are now going to be their face, the sort of false doors that are going to be on the front. This is just one of them. This is the worst side that's going to be up inside, kind of below the mattress. No one's ever going to see it. So what they say to do is to scribe a 1/4 inch line along the length. So I don't actually remember the name of this tool, but I've set it to a 1/4 inch. And Okay, so we are back on the floor. I've got the face panels, these false doors arranged on the floor with the bad side facing up, the side that never will get finished. Right now, I'm just trying to get them into square. What I'm finding, and I sort of tried this off camera, harsh part of this is these are two independent pieces. So you're basically trying to move. Here's the bed frame. Yes, there's my assistant. These three pieces you're trying to move into square. And I was having a hard time doing it with my assistant on being extraordinarily helpful. So I think what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to attempt to just try to hold this together a bit better. Just so it's not moving while I'm trying to get the frame into square. All right, and now we're going to try to bring the bed frame in, get it in the square. What I'm trying to do is both get this square on the ends, but have this 1/4 inch overhang that we scribed into. And it is not easy to do alone. All right, I think I've done it. All right, and now the suggestion is that we want to scribe in this area so we know where to put glue. All right. And now we have to get this thing back in the square. The instructions say you need to make sure you have it flush on the footer end. And not only, it says that, I feel like that just makes sense, right? Because this is going to have to fold into the cabinet. So if anything is going to be, precisely square, it's got to be the split side. And you can have an overhang on that side. In fact, it says there should be an overhang, although I don't seem to have. All right, so what it suggests to get this square is to do this 1 panel at a time after it's glued. So for example, I'm going to make sure that this is flush here. I'm going to put in 1 screw. Now we're going to go down to the other side. And we're going to make sure we got our 1/4 inch overhang. Okay, and now what we can do is get this piece into square. And we're going to put 1 screw in so that it can rotate. All right, and now just going to add a bunch of screws to hold this together. Okay, what you're looking at here are the 2 sides of the cabinet that will stay vertical and attached to the wall. So the bed will go inside of this when it's closed. And we have to attach 3 pieces of hardware to this. So the way I've arranged these right now, the finished edge is facing out on both of these. And I've actually written on the back spine that this is the left and that's the top. This is the right and that's the top. So just to keep me organized, these will fold together and stand up vertical is the idea. And that will just help me keep all the measurements right. So what we have to attach is this little stopper that the bed's gonna stop up against. This little pivot hinge, which is actually always going to be attached to the bed. So if you noticed, the bed only had legs on the front. That's because it always stays attached here. And then this little hinge is where the hydraulic piston attaches. And so it gives really detailed measurements about how to put things. So I'm going to use this 4-foot long drywall T-square to do this. So this stopper, it actually wants 7 3/8 of an inch in from the finished edge and 6 inches down. So we can just mark that. Okay, and then again, the finished edge is on the outside, 6 inches down, 7 3/8 inches in. It's easy to read these kind of backwards, so pay a bit of attention. Do everything you can to set this out. And then this has like a little peg in it. And so you're going to just go deep enough that this can rest inside. So don't go all the way through, just deep enough. This peg can go in. Okay, and then this hinge plate, or what are they calling it? Upper ball stud plate, is going to go 31 inches from the bottom. So 10 inches in from the finished edge, which is, all right, so how long is this in total? This is 15 and a half, 5 and a half from the back, and 31 3/4. Let's just check that in this direction. Measure twice, cut once. 10 inches in from the finished side. $31. All right, and then, yeah, this has a little hole. We need to make our 5/8 inch hole for this to... Okay, so Forstner bit. Just want to make enough of a hole for this screw to be inside it. That'll do it. And the last one, we need to just drill enough of a hole for this little nubbin. And it's not going to go all the way through, although it is going to go most of the way through. So this hole, 4 3/4 in from the finished face and 11 3/4 up. Yeah, so unless you have a drill press, keep these handy to make sure you've drilled the hole deep enough, because you don't want to go through the other side, but you want this to be flush when it's on here. So then the last thing I'm going to do is the cutouts for my baseboards. And if you've seen some of my channel, you know that I made the baseboards myself. So they are 1 1/4 in from the wall at 6 inches tall. All right, and then obviously, yeah, these measurements may differ depending on your base molding. I'm gonna do these cuts off camera. All right, with these holes drilled, this is now all ready to be put together and finished. So just like this wasn't really a how-to video for applying veneer tape, it's not a how-to video for how to stain. I'm gonna try this. So this is Varathane's Early American, and it's 1-step stain and poly. I've never used this before, but it's water-based, which I think is going to be nice because all the trim I've only done oil-based stuff, and it takes a long time to let the oil dry and kind of off gas before I can bring it in the house. And I want to use this right away. And I don't know, I've never used it before. All right, so everything is stained and finished. That stain and poly mix that I used, it's okay. It's not going to be the best finish. So depending on what your goals are, for me, I needed to get this done quick, and I don't think this looks terrible. So I'm not sure I would use it again, though. So with everything stained, we can go ahead and reattach all the hardware and then begin to put the thing back together. So there's that bumper up on the top, just one screw goes in there. This is the plate that the hinge is going to attach to, and this is going to be the hinge that the bed pivots on. So it's a little bit tight on account of this stain probably blocking it up. It's basically going to attach with a mixture of wood screws that come with it and these kind of machine sheath screws. And so I purposefully didn't drill holes for those before I sleeve it. So what I'm going to do, or what I'm doing, is just to make sure all of this is straight, is I'm using a speed square to get this up on here as straight as I can. All right, 4 screws, and then this middle one is going to get one of the blood machine screws. I'm doing this as slowly as I can to try to avoid tear out. These two have a little bit of like a collar or like a cover, so some tear out actually would be fine. Always nice to minimize it. Okay, and then this bottom one, it actually gets the bigger screws. These are number 12. And these black ones are number 10. So we can get this straight again. They want the machine screws on the top, is on the bottom. Good. All right, there we go. You can do that to the other side. Like I said, I didn't film it, but the little bumper thing goes on facing a finished side. And you can use the speed square here too if you want to make sure this is straight. So I'll do the other one off camera and then we can start actually assembling the cabinet and the bed frame. Okay, now we can also reattach this hardware. So remember, this is that rotating joint that's going to go side here, one on each side. We've got this plate. Okay, and then, yeah, this goes on the outside, so that there should be pre-drilled holes there already. All right, so that's that. I'll do the other side off camera. All right, and then you can reattach the legs as well. All right, with the legs on, we can now attach this brace that goes between. I couldn't actually find in the instructions. It sort of looks in the picture like the screws are bigger than normal. It asks you to drill a 1/4 inch hole, 1.5 inches deep. So I'm almost certain that that's what these 2 bolts that seem just out of place compared to the rest of the hardware. And I think it makes sense to me that we would want some kind of more intense structural support from metal drilled into this wood. And the other side off camera. And with that, basically you're done with the first instruction packet. All right, so we're now on to the second instruction packet. It suggests laying this all out the way it's actually going to be attached. All right, and then the next thing to do is to put in the 1/4 inch plywood. That is the mattress support. Now I bought red oak just so that all of this would match, and I guess that's not necessary because this is just never going to be seen. So you can save some money. So just got this Uber mallet to help me get all this lined up. So that's one. All right, well, I don't know which part of my cutting is off here, but this doesn't quite fit. I also don't totally understand why this is such a hollow design. There's quite a lot of space inside of this, and I don't really get that. All right, I guess back out to the table saw to trim one of the sewed bits. Hopefully this is not a disaster for the rest of the build. Okay, so went out to the table saw, Took off about an inch. It now fits inside. There is a bit of a gap here, but I'm guessing that it's better to have this up against the sides than to worry too much about this small gap here. Also need to add, it comes with this strapping, which is kind of cool. Elastic that is going to, in theory, hold the mattress in place. They want it to go 16 inches in on both sides. So, just use square ply. All right, and then it also wants you to, they want you to screw this like through the two pieces of wood, right? So cool. Heart. This is not structural or anything, I don't think. So can just go ahead and attach it. Go ahead and just mark out where those little internal ribs are. And get this thing fastened down. Yeah, lay cabinet verticals, finished front edge down. Here are the cuts for the baseboards that are going to fit there. Slide the plastic spacers, these two white spacers, onto the pivot bars. Slide the pivot bars in the bed frame. Snap the E-clips into these grooves. So that's these funny little, yeah, they look like yeast or funny seeds. Measure up and mark to a reference point, 15 inches on the end of the vertical. And this is where this headboard is going to go. Yeah, cool. All right, so for mine, I got the mark. For mine, it's 15 inches. For yours, it might be different. I'm going to do 2 countersunk holes. And then, she obvious that can hardly use the 2-inch screws at this point. My guess is this is going to be a lot easier with a certain pair of hands, but I don't have any right now. So it shows this closed, and it wants me to rotate the cabinet up. So I can even do that. At this point, you want to get this into the final position because it's going to be harder to move, and ultimately it's going to get attached to the wall. All right, and the next step is to attach the header or headboard, whatever it is, the top. I am going to attempt to be a little bit smarter than I was before. And just use this clamp as an extra pair of hands. I should also, there'll be text on the video during this point, but one of the things I screwed up on was I drilled, I countersunk screws on here, and the instructions actually say to use finish nails on the front. That like is obvious in hindsight. But I'm going to attach crown molding to this in the end, so it's not going to affect my build. But if you're just going to do the basic cabinet, then yeah, make sure you use finish nails on the front, and you can use screws on the back. All right, and then this says to use 1 1/4" screws because we're actually going to go from here out, right? So you don't want to go punching through the other side. Again, I highly recommend if you're doing this, you get some belt. All right, so I'm going to drill some button holes. All right, so I've got this now pushed away from the wall. I've got now the, what does it call these? It calls it a gas spring. Note that these are sided, so there's a huge arrow saying to have the fat part pointed up. Yeah, and these are going to attach here and here. I think the catch is these are under so much pressure, there's no way you could close them yourself. Or if you can, you're much stronger than I am. So what they suggest to do is close this back, which feels very sketchy to me. I have this now a couple feet from the wall. It is closed, and they say now that you can attach the gas springs. So take note, I don't know how well you can see. This is not going to be easy to film. They're sided, so this fat part with the arrow pointed up has to go up. And it looks like they just clip on. Yeah, they clip on extremely easily. And I think the idea is that, you know, these are under so much pressure, there's kind of no way you could bend them yourself. So what they suggest, hopefully this is still filming. What they suggest is you kind of rock this forward enough that you can. I'm not even going to try to film in behind, but what we can do now is reattach these bumpers. So the last step is to attach the cabinet to the wall. Their instructions devote like 3 whole pages to helping you figure out what the best way to do this, depending on what your wall is made out of. So I got wood studs. So I'm just going to attach this to the studs. All right, so I found 4 studs across the back here. So I'm going to attach this with 4 screws. This is very much going to depend on what your wall looks like. So I think I'm just going to navigate this to you and to the 30 pages of instructions that are on here. This is incredibly important, and yeah, you don't want this thing falling down on you. All right, and now I'm going to attach some handles because I realize I can't actually do any more without attaching some handle. I got these really nice ones out of Etsy. I don't know if they're antique or not, but they look really cool. So don't overlook the cabinet poles. Investing a little bit in these can really change the look of this. I feel like these finishing touches can be, yeah, they can be more important than people realize. The instructions say this is not going to be easy to open without the mattress as a counterbalance. Boy, are they right. So, guess I'll go get the mattress. So here it is with the mattress added. It says in the instructions, the mattress has to be, I don't remember the mass, a certain weight to be able to actually work. So the reason I have a air conditioner on here is because this mattress was not heavy enough to hold that in place. So yeah, it's one of these cheapo foam ones. And so it does say that you could do something like the soles and weights. Okay, so even with a normal mattress, this is, I don't know, medium quality mattress in my IKEA. This isn't heavy enough. So I played around. I had these two window weights from some of my trim renovation. I had these weights, but if you had to buy them, like dumbbell weights or something, that might add some more expense to this. So I've got the 1.25-inch screws from the build, and yeah, this plastic strapping. It was in the, I think it was in the electrical aisle, but so yeah, I've got the bottom of this pillowcase just because these are rusty and I guess a little bit unsightly. My thinking is that I could just attach them here. Yeah, I'm just going to attach this so that I can close this without it being in the way. And then I guess the nice thing about this is that it would be relatively easy to undo this if you had a heavier mattress or something and you didn't want to do it, compared to if you put it on the inside. And I'll do the same on the other side. Okay. It's not the prettiest, but I think when the bed is made up, you won't be able to notice it. And now, yeah, see, it's just barely heavy enough with those 12 added pounds and the mattress. So this is definitely something you want to think about. But the springs definitely make it easy to close.